Top of the motherfucking morning to you, my friends. Welcome one, welcome all to my podcast, Alexandra Unfiltered, a show where we analyze, theorize, and hypothesize women's rights, women's wrongs, and everything in between. I am your gracious host, Alexandra Rose, and I am a bad bee with a law degree, simply doing what I do best. Ranting, raving, whining, and complaining. And not necessarily in that order. I'm so excited you've joined today. I have some really good content lined up for you for the next 30-40 minutes, because today we will be talking all about the phenomenon of pick-me women and how they are surprisingly bad at picking halfway decent men. Isn't that something? Like, it's so ironic. You would think that a woman whose whole life and reason for existence is to pick a man would at least pick like a good man, and they never do. But we're going to unpack why that is today. So the first thing you may be asking is, Alexandra, exactly what is a pick-me? And that's a really good question, because we use the phrase pick-me and pick-misha and pick-me woman so often and so frequently, we just tend to assume that everyone knows what it means or that everyone is using the same definition. So no worries, Alexandra to the rescue. I have a handy-dandy Urban Dictionary pulled up on my iPad here in the studio. And the Urban Dictionary tells us that a pick-me woman is a woman who is willing to do anything for male approval. Emphasis on anything. She will embarrass or humiliate or throw other women under the bus to achieve this goal. And that is key when we're talking about pick-me women, is that they can't just be women who are all about male approval. They have to endanger or embarrass other women in the process of achieving that male approval. Okay? So think of a pick-me woman as those women who go on social media or who in real life in your social circles make a big deal about how they're not like these other women. And whatever the other women are, the pick-me woman strives to be the opposite of that. So if she's in a social circle or in an environment where women say, oh, I don't really need a man, you know, I enjoy being single and I stand on my own 2 feet, the pick-me woman is going to chime in and say, well, I'm not like you other girls. I need a man. And my whole reason for being is to satisfy a man. I'm not like you other women. I cook for my man. I clean for him. I darn his socks. I chew his food. I wipe his ass. Those kinds of things, right? And the issue here isn't that it's not that it's inherently wrong to be a cisgender heterosexual woman who loves pleasing her male romantic partner and who seeks out romantic connection. The issue is that with pick-me women, they do it in a way that throws other women under the bus. They do it in a way that devalues the institution of womanhood. Because for a pick-me woman to be picked by a man, she basically has to objectify herself and objectify other women in doing so. All right. So as you have probably ascertained by now, we love to hate pick-me women. And I am part of that we. I'm sorry that I'm not sorry, actually. Everything a pick-me woman does, everything she says, every step that she takes in her life is done with the implicit goal of being picked or chosen by a man. The way that she dresses, the tone of voice that she uses when she speaks, the way that she wears her hair, the career that she chooses, where she lives, the music that she listens to, the friends that she has, everything, her entire life from sun up to sundown centers on achieving the patriarchal stamp of approval. Pick-me women are some of the women who are proud foot soldiers of patriarchal structures. In a way, they are female misogynists, okay? Pick-me's are lapdogs for men of every ilk. They pine and yearn and lust and strive to compete with other women for male approval, male attention, and ultimately, male validation. So a pick-me woman is the first woman who will tell you that she is not a feminist. She is not a womanist. She doesn't believe in all this feminist structure. She honestly doesn't even think that men should be, or rather, she doesn't think that women should be running or in charge of anything because, you know, women, we are too emotional. We get caught up in our emotions too much. Our menstrual cycles dictate how we feel, and men are the ones who are the true logical gender. They're the ones who should be running any and everything in this world. That's a pick-me woman. So you've likely had the displeasure of socializing with one, or being in a social circle or an environment with a pick-me woman. And it makes no sense arguing with this kind of woman, or trying to debate her, or trying to convince her, make her see the error of her ways. That's a exercise in futility. You're wasting your breath and your energy. Leave her be and let her be the lapdog to patriarchal structures, okay? Because for a pick-me woman, receiving the patriarchal blessing of being a good woman, remember last week's episode? Or a woman who isn't like those other women who are, insert sexist trope here, receiving that patriarchal blessing for a pick-me woman is honestly even better than winning the lottery, because that's all she strives for. That's all she's here to do, is to get that patriarchal stamp of approval. And even after she's been romantically picked by a man, you would think that would cease the end of her pick-me-isms, and it's not. Being picked by a man is not enough. Now she has to show other women that she's been picked by a man, even if that man is like basically the most ain't shit man you have ever laid your eyes on, okay? For a pick-me woman, there is no valley low enough, no mountain high enough that she will not try to reach in her search for male validation. In this hunt for approval from patriarchal society, isn't it then deliciously ironic that the pick-me woman somehow always ends up picking the most worthless, ain't shit, functionally illiterate, unfaithful, unremarkable, unemployed, facially challenged, emotionally stunted, socially repugnant, intellectually destitute man that you have ever had the dishonor of laying your eyes upon? Isn't it ironic that that's who the pick-me woman ends up picking? You would think her picking selection would be a little bit more strict. Her standards would be a little bit more non-negotiable. That's not her style. Any man will do, so long as he has the requisite sexual genitalia and sexual anatomy. That's all he needs, because his very existence as a man justifies itself and justifies her picking him, regardless of whether there are certain other issues or lack thereof with his existence. Please see the aforementioned ancient list of him being unremarkable, facially challenged, unemployed, etc. So ultimately, we know that pick-me women are surprisingly bad at picking men, right? And that's not by accident. Rather, that is by design. So how is it that a pick-me woman who dedicates her existence to being chosen by a man end up choosing a man that no other woman in her right mind would want? The answer is very simple. Pick-me women are not looking to be picked by a good man. They're not even looking to be picked by a man per se, because it's not the individual male person whom the pick-me is looking to be picked by. Rather, the pick-me woman is looking to be picked, approved, and legitimized by the entire patriarchy as a whole. Being picked by one singular lone man is not enough. This is why a pick-me will be in a mutually exclusive romantic relationship with a man and will still tout the pick-me beliefs and standards. You would think, like, who are you, you won. Who are you trying to impress by this point? You can drop the pick-me-sha rhetoric right now, right? You have the man. You got what you wanted. Okay? You'd think that because she's achieved the goal of being picked, she would let the pick-me attitudes go. But no. Pick-me's don't just need the endorsement, the stamp of approval from the man that she is in a relationship with, a mutually exclusive romantic relationship with. She needs the support and validation of patriarchal society in general. And yes, that includes other pick-me women. I am very sad, very disappointed to admit that I myself am a former pick-me, okay? And it tracks because I'm a mixed-race black woman who is lighter-skinned from a foreign family. So honestly, it tracks that someone with my complexion and with my background is a former pick-me. And I can tell you right now, as a former pick-me, what I'm saying is absolutely true. I'm speaking from experience. In the height of my pick-me days, I was not concerned really about actually being picked by a man as much as I was concerned about asserting my supremacy over other women. I was more concerned about proving just how much of a good woman I was and competing with other women more than I was ever worried about actually being selected by a man. That was actually on the back burner. So I know what I'm saying is especially true. Pick-me women are concerned with asserting their rights, asserting their dominance over other women. It's about other women, and it's about patriarchal society as a whole in general, more than it is about being in a romantic relationship with one singular man. Okay? Like I've said before, as a former pick-me, I can tell you pick-me's are always in this one-sided beef with other women. And when I say one-sided competition and one-sided beef, I mean exactly that. As a former pick-me, I can tell you, like, any other woman in my vicinity was immediate competition. Regardless of her looks, regardless of her background, regardless of even her desire as to whether or not she wanted a man in question, she was still competition because I'm competing with her for patriarchy's approval, right? So even if she's not competing with me, it doesn't matter. I have to assert that I am more feminine than she is. I'm more desirable than she is. I'm more palatable than she is, just because that's what a pick-me is doing. So think about that. Anytime you see or encounter a pick-me, understand that it is not necessarily about being picked by one singular man. It is one, being picked by patriarchal society in general, and two, asserting supremacy over other cisgender heterosexual women. Pick-me women do not view women as individual, complex human beings with conflicting motives and whatnot. I instead believe that pick-me women view other women as objects in the same way that misogynistic heterosexual men view women as objects. All right, so walk with me, okay? Walk with me down this primrose path of patriarchal pitfalls, okay? Pick-me women are kith and kin in how they objectify women by viewing women as pieces, as parts of a whole. Her hair looks nicer than mine. Her legs are longer than mine. Her butt is bigger than mine. Her breasts are bigger than mine. Her voice is softer than mine. She's more conventionally attractive than I am. She has a longer eyelashes than I do. Shout out to my false eyelashes I'm wearing today, courtesy of Amazon. So the way that pick-me women view other women as pieces, they view other women like this piecemeal kind of way, the way that they separate women based on our body parts and rank those body parts as being higher or lower on a scale of attracting men. That's the exact same way that men, sexist, misogynistic, bigoted, heterosexual men view women, right? It's viewing women in this manner where our existence is boiled down to our physical anatomy. Our body parts are viewed as individual entities, separate and apart from our personhood. That is exactly what sexist, bigoted men do. That's exactly what the patriarchal structures around us do. Think about the way that patriarchal structures and patriarchal societies break their necks trying to control women's bodies and police women's bodies. If they were just leaving it at abortion and banning abortion and things like that, that's just one thing. The way that they insist upon tracking women's menstrual cycles, wanting to imprison women for not just getting an abortion, but also having a miscarriage. So it's, do you see what I mean? Policing women in every sense of the word is what patriarchal societies do, and it's the same thing that pick-me women do. Listen to how pick-me's talk. Listen to their language, right? They'll say things like, you know, well, no man really likes a woman who is, or a woman who has a deep voice. Men don't really like women who have short hair. Men don't like women who don't wear makeup. Men don't like women who do wear makeup. Men don't like women who have a loud laugh. Men don't like everything that a woman does not do. If she blinks wrong, a pick-me woman is right there along with patriarchal society to police that woman in her blinking even. I've said it before and it absolutely bears repeating. Pick-me women are the foot soldiers of patriarchal society because they stand there right along with the men when men are enforcing these patriarchal attitudes upon women and upon our physical bodies and upon the way that we carry out our lives. Men have not gotten away with being bigoted, sexist, misogynistic, patriarchal fucks. They haven't gotten away with it for thousands of years by themselves. It's not just them alone working to enforce and police women's bodies. They have help from women. Okay, they have assistance from women. I was recently listening to one of the history podcasts that I really enjoy listening to, and they were talking about how it was women in the 60s and 70s and going into the 1980s here in America who campaigned against the Equal Rights Amendment being ratified into law. It was women who said that women should not be viewed equally on par with men in terms of receiving pay and wages in the workplace. It was women doing that work. It was women agreeing with men that women should be policed and toned and controlled. Can you imagine that? Women, the main dissenter against the Equal Rights Amendment was a woman named Phyllis Schlafly. You can look her up, Wikipedia, Google are your best friends. And her primary stance for campaigning against the Equal Rights Amendment was that it would remove women from being able to access certain income in the event of a divorce from a man, because if a woman is working outside of the home and she needs to divorce her partner, then she wouldn't be entitled to alimony. Like, that was the crux of her argument as to why the Equal Rights Amendment should not be ratified. And the Equal Rights Amendment would have given women protections in pay and wages in the workplace, among other things. And today, as of the date of the recording of this episode in the year of our Lord 2024, the Equal Rights Amendment has not been ratified into law and is no closer to being ratified because of the work of women. Pick me women. We have them to thank for why they support initiatives that you would think, wouldn't this benefit you? You are a woman. You would stand to benefit from this. Yes, the Pick Me woman would stand to benefit from that initiative, from that legislation, but that would require her to unglue herself from patriarchal society, which she has latched onto like an eel, what are those bloodsuckers that they use to bleed people, that when it attaches to you, it just sucks all of your blood out? I'm blanking on the name right now, but that's what a Pick Me woman has done to patriarchal society. She's latched on, she's locked in. So to remove herself from patriarchal society and to remove herself from that patriarchal approval would require an unsealing, right? A separation that she's just not willing to commit. Because why would she achieve approval from women and from widespread society when she could achieve approval from the real power structure, which is the patriarchal power structure? Why would she bother doing that? Why would she want to be on a level playing field with other women? Why would she want the playing field to be equalized in terms of pay, in terms of education, in terms of a woman's access to reproductive rights and autonomy and choice? Why would she want to do that? I'm getting hot just thinking about it. You can, if you're watching this on YouTube, the YouTube version, I'm literally sweating and my lashes are lifting because I'm getting hot just thinking about it, how dumb Pick Me women are and how we have them to blame for why anything we want in a society is such a fucking fight. Look no further than The Handmaid's Tale, both the television program and the original book it was based on by author Margaret Atwood. And Margaret Atwood has said over and over again in interviews that the things that happened to women in The Handmaid's Tale were things that happened to actual women in real life, primarily to minority women, Black and Native American women throughout history. And those things that happened to women in real life that Margaret Atwood based The Handmaid's Tale on, those initiatives were absolutely fully supported by Pick Me women of every race, ilk, socioeconomic status, etc. That's the demonic thing about Pick Me women and how they choose bad men, is that they can Pick Me woman, you can find her in any shade, any ethnicity, any race, any socioeconomic background, any class, any educational background, any profession, any country, any religion. There is a Pick Me woman there, ready to choose an ancient man and ready to make you have to also be subject to choosing an ancient man. It's not enough for her to just be with her man and be in peace. No, she has to go vote in politicians and vote in legislation and statutes and things like that that put you in the same boat as her. Because in her mind, if I have to be a pick me and I have to suffer, So do you. Misery loves company when it comes to pick-me women choosing ain't shit men and choosing structures and upholding structures that force all women to be subject to ain't shit men who are often not just ain't shit, who are often also harmful and violent towards women. Okay, so I briefly touched on how pick-me women are kith and kin with men and how they physically objectify women. Pick-me women employ the male gaze just like men do. I'm sorry, I'll say it. A pick-me woman is a sexist, bigoted, patriarchal man's best friend. Except when a pick-me woman is employing the male gaze on another woman, she's not doing it for the purposes of subjugating that other woman. She's doing it for the purposes of objectifying that woman as competition for that man. So she will sit there and pick apart a woman's physical appearance, pick apart a woman's personality, pick apart every single thing about her right there next to the man. And what surprises all of us is that the pick-me woman will turn around and is shocked that the ain't shit man and the ain't shit patriarchal structures she upholds, uplifts, and enforces, then turns on her. And then turns coat on her and enacts its same violence upon her. What we have to remember is that the result of the pick-me woman employing the male gaze the way that the man does is the same result. Because whereas the patriarchal man is employing the male gaze to objectify the woman for the purposes of subjugation, and the pick-me woman is employing the male gaze on other women for the purposes of competition, the result is the same. The pick-me woman helps the man in completely removing and dehumanizing a woman's autonomy and personhood. Because both the pick-me woman and the sexist, bigoted, heterosexual man agree on the same cause. A woman's sole purpose in life is to be an object for a man to use, misuse, abuse, and discard all at his pleasure. And a pick-me woman is perfectly fine with being discarded and misused and even harmed by an ancient man, because in her mind, to be used by a man is better than to not have a man's attention at all. And again, this would all be fine if this is how she thought about herself. If she was fine and willing to just harm herself. Well, rather, it really wouldn't be fine, I should say. But she wants a society in which all women are subject to that. She wants a society in which all women are subject to choosing ancient men. So I have explained to you how pick-me women ironically choose ancient men, because ultimately they're not looking to be picked by an individual soul man romantically. They're looking to be picked and to be approved and validated by patriarchal society as a whole. And that is why pick-me women strive to dominate and to achieve supremacy over other women. Because in doing so, then the pick-me is achieving her goal of being approved by patriarchal society. The same way that, like, fundamentalist religious figures, it's not enough for them to just practice their religion. They have to convert others to prove just how dedicated and committed they are to the religion. Think of it that way when you're thinking of pick-me women. It's not enough for them to be dedicated to the religion of patriarchy. They have to convert us unbelievers, us non-believers, into it as well to further prove just how committed they are. All facets of society prove this theory to be true, not just because I'm a bad bee with a law degree with credentials, and not just because I'm a former pick-me myself, but you can just look at women who consistently vote against initiatives that would otherwise empower women. Look at women who defend violent, harmful men who commit acts of assault and abuse and sexual assault at other women and even at underage girls. Look at women in religious spaces. Look at women in secular spaces. Look at poor women. Look at working class women. Look at college educated women. Look at professional women, and look at homemakers, right? Women who speak different languages. The one thing they can all agree on, the one language they all speak, is the language of the patriarchy, right? Damn, I'm hot. I am on fire. Literally on fire in the studio right now, you guys. OMG, like sweating my lashes off. Shout out to the Maybelline setting spray. Otherwise, my makeup would literally be melting right now. Also, look at women, grown adult ass women who will shame underage like girls and teenagers for being fast, quote unquote, and loose when said girl starts to develop. Or they tell girls in schools, make sure your bra straps don't show so you don't tempt the men. Or they'll tell girls in the home, oh, your uncle is coming over, your dad's coming over or something. Put on some clothes so you don't, his eye doesn't wander. Those are pick-me women. They are the definition of being a pick-me woman. Because they prioritize the man's desires over prioritizing a woman's safety. So that is why I believe that pick-me women are really bad at picking men. They're not looking to pick the individual man for the purposes of achieving romantic happiness or sexual satisfaction. They're looking to be picked by patriarchal society as a whole. They're looking to convert us non-believers into their patriarchal pick-me religion. So in doing so, in striving to be picked by patriarchal society as a whole, that requires pick-me women to then objectify other women the way that men do. They have to use the same language, the same tools, the same mechanisms to subjugate women. They just go about it differently. So they're not trying to dominate women for the purposes of committing harm against other women. Rather, they're dominating women to prove to men and to prove to patriarchal society how good of a woman I am, how I should be picked, I should be chosen and validated, and I'm worthy of that simply because I make myself a vessel for which patriarchal structures can live through and harm other women. Look, I'm raising my hand, I'm jumping up and down on my tippy toes. Pick me, choose me, love me, right? Like that one scene in Grey's Anatomy. Meredith Grey, girl, I don't know, those early seasons of Grey's Anatomy, the main character, Meredith Grey, I don't know. It was very much giving very strong pick-me vibes. That pick me, choose me, love me speech. It was, I remember watching it. I think I was like in middle school watching that scene. And even I was cringing then as a child, as a pre-adolescent child, basically. Awkward. But she had some character development in there. Ultimately, what pick-me women choosing these ancient men fail to accept, what they absolutely refuse to accept, is that in these here patriarchal Hunger Games, the outcome is the same, no matter how hard you try. And what is that outcome, you may ask? Every man always wins, and every woman always loses. No matter how mediocre, dangerous, or violent the man is, and no matter how extraordinary the woman is, again, the outcome of these patriarchal Hunger Games is the same. Every man always wins, and every woman always loses. The pick-me woman who chooses ancient men is only trying and failing to cheat a system that was not even designed for her to operate in the first place. Okay, that is the Alexandra Unfiltered theory version of why pick-me women are really bad at picking men. Thank you so much for joining and listening with me today and bearing with me, if you're watching on YouTube, bearing with me sweat and my lashes lifting off. OMG, so embarrassing. You can join me next week. New episodes of Alexandra Unfiltered drop every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can stream my podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. So that includes, but is not limited to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, etc. Also, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Alexandra Rose Unfiltered. You can go ahead and listen to me yap on TikTok at AlexRoseM_, and keep up with my hijinks on Instagram as well at Alex_Rose_M. This has been Alexandra Rose, your fave bad bee with a law degree, ranting, raving, whining, and complaining, about the patriarchal pitfalls that rule us all. And I will see you next time.